Okay, I'll call to order this meeting of the Sturgis City Council tonight, June 2nd, 6:30 p.m. Please stand and recite the pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pastor Bill, would you be willing to offer a prayer to us tonight?
Let us pray. Father, we are so thankful for this night and for the moisture that you're giving us. And Father, now as we go into this meeting, I ask that you just grant peace and discernment and wisdom as this council makes these decisions that are before them tonight. And Father, we also just pray for the peace and prosperity of the city of Sturgis. We ask these things in your Son's precious name. Amen.
Thank you, Bill. Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
Mayor, I would like to add to the consent calendar 86, Music on Main, SEL for the Knuckle for July 2nd.
So add a public hearing for July 16th for an SEL held by the Knuckle. Is that a motion?
Yes, sir.
Is there a second to that?
Second it.
We got a first by Tony, a second by Alex to approve the agenda with the addition of an item 8.6 under the consent calendar to include a public hearing. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Item 4 is announcements and praise. Councilor Thompson is out of town tonight, visiting family, and Deb is offered to read our announcements and praise.
Sure, we have lots going on this week in Sturgis. It's a busy, busy week. We have Planning Commission tomorrow night, 5:30, and then this weekend, there's just a whole list of events that you can go to. Sturgis Arts Festival, and there's craft vendors, and then we have the Battle of the Bands at the same time, and that's at Rally Point, and lots of free kids activities too. The Downtown Sturgis Foundation is having their art walk and sculpture unveiling, and anyone who wants to participate, you just need to be at the Rally Point at 11 to gather, and then they'll walk around to the different sculptures. And I will be putting a story out so you get an idea of what you're going to see this year. And then also the Sturgis and Meade County Historical Society History Day, 9 to 3 at the Community Center on Saturday. This year's theme is Archaeology in Sturgis and Meade County. And they will have presentations by those who are doing the dig at the Soap Suds Row. And then you can also go out to the Soap Suds Row near Fort Meade and actually view them doing the dig. So that's very interesting too. So that'll be a fun day. And then the Crisis Intervention Shelter Service is holding an art auction at the Armory on Saturday. And then always my favorite, Booster Club. So that's a full Saturday of events in Sturgis. I'm sure I missed something, but we're good to go. Oh yes, the school board election is tomorrow. Polls open 7 to 7 at the community center. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Item 5 is non-agenda matters that may come before the council. If there's any member of the council or the audience that has an item that is not on the agenda that they'd like to address the council, now's the time to do so. Does anybody from council have anything that they would like to add right now? How about members of the public? Okay, hearing nothing, we'll continue on to 6, department updates. We don't have anything that's on that list at this moment. I guess most of that will come through the rest of the reports.
Yeah, no formal report. Happy to answer any questions, though.
Well, we've got other pieces coming later on the financial recap, but very much appreciated the effort that was put in, especially in the 11th hour, to get some of that pulled together. So probably should have said that under announcements and praise as well. But item 7 is mayor's report. As always, we're working to fill our lifeguard positions at the community center. In fact, I think they're just starting or just recently started a lifeguard class, a little shot for.
We actually had 4 that went through the class.
Oh, good. So we might see some of those young people getting on this, and I think generally it is younger people. Again, mostly lifeguards and community center related pieces. We've got a hire of a backfill in the finance office, senior accountant, and in the police department, a backfill of an employee, Paula Biscar, that is 35 years city service. So gonna have a little cross training for about a month, I think, until.
We should announce that too.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and back up to the retirement party since
It's on the 13th.
Yep, Friday the 13th, she's having a retirement party. I'm not sure what that means, but 1 to 3 with 35 years of service.
Yeah, at the library.
At,
community room.
at the community room in the library.
Thank you. The last item on the mayor's report is a piece that I've been meaning to do for a little bit, but I've been waiting for us to get a few other things put into place, and that's basically a state of the city address, building stability and shaping the future. And it's a 4-page document, so I'm gonna bounce off the top pieces of this for the sake of time tonight, but in the last 6 months, we've worked pretty hard about locking in a budget that was 10% reduced from previous budgets. We've filled some key made some key hires in our city finance director with Ann Bertolato and our legal contractor with Eric Davis. We've had some department stabilization in the finance office, the ambulance department, and the planning department with hires we've been able to make there. We're working through the process of a contract with Condrey Associates on a wage and salary study that many of the agencies, our neighboring governments and agencies, as well as within the community here, Meade County has used the same company to try and come up with fair compensation standards and a ordinance recodification contract has been entered in with American Legal Services. This was partly driven by the fact that we needed to make some updates to our ordinances, but more importantly, the majority of our ordinances reflected our prior form of government, which just over a year ago, the citizens of Sturgis changed. And so many of the ordinances needed to be updated, and what a perfect time to look at addressing those. Some of them date back to 1984, so not saying that they're poorly written, but maybe there's some things in there that we need to be addressed to better conform to our current standards, protect but not overburden our residents. Transparency, the council is approving all contracts that the city is entering into, and the full contract texts are being published as part of the agenda. Nothing's being redacted. Infrastructure-wise, some long-term pieces. Our FEMA 7th Street project has finally been closed out. The checks, if they haven't been deposited, are in the mail. Some work that had been started previously was completed in the Van Acker Creek floodplain that took some properties out of the floodplain and saved some of the residents the additional flood insurance costs for them. And we have a few infrastructure projects that are nearing completion or recently completed. A new well out on the south end of town, and our sewer expansion has started down near the football field is making its way towards the dump hill or Oyster Mountain for those that want to name the formation. We've been presented an opportunity at the airport to get $6 million worth of upgrades in the form of a terminal and taxiway at less than $175,000 investment from the city. And those from the state and the FFA have shared that they've never seen such a large match or such a small match from the city side on that. Generally, it's much higher than 2.5%. So that's a plus. Development-wise, you know, my entire life, I think many others, the National Guard property out at exit 30 has always been a point of discussion. Adequate, but barely for our guardsmen out there, and it's on city-owned property. And they've announced that they're actually going to be working towards making the budget come into fruition and ultimately move their operations to out by the high school. And so that's going to open up some opportunity at exit 30, probably primarily to be used by South Dakota DOT for a reconstruction of the exit project. But nonetheless, you know, I think it'd be a better facility for our guards' response and better fit the city at this point. We've had a few community enhancements. We've created a scatter garden at the Bear Butte Cemetery just in time for Memorial Day. A good addition for end-of-life choices for residents. And we had an election back in April that set the city's leadership for the next 2 years. Our financial reality is now coming into view. We've been talking about this for a long time. Later in the agenda, we'll see a 2024 annual report. But you know, there's pieces of it. We funded our budget. We went on an amazing budget freeze for 7 months out of 2024. And in doing that, we dropped our expenses down to $9.7 million, while our revenue collected was $10.1 million, which is very good at face value because we essentially put $400,000 in the bank. The struggle with that is because it was under the complete budget freeze and the fact that council, some of us that are involved right here tonight yet, took a conservative approach on a $1.25 million budget cut, but relies on $10.5 million worth of revenue collection. The math isn't mathing as good as it should, and we still have work to do. And as we go forward, it might be something that we need to have some action on, because we can certainly not overspend our means. Trends from the previous 3 years, actually previous 4 years. I mean, we mentioned 2024. In 2021, 22, and 23, we overspent our means by accumulated $4 million. And that's where we caused ourselves to get tight. Revenue has been basically flat. We've been seeing small increases, but where we were is unsustainable. And I believe that we're heading the right direction, but you know, it's tough to overspend by that amount. And you know, I think this council's locked into making sure that we're living within our means. The next 6 months, I mean, obviously we got the 85th rally coming. We're gonna host that in the best, safest, and most conductive way that we can for our community, prioritizing safety and city readiness. And we'll have some key initiatives that are starting to come out. We have an audit engagement letter on the agenda later that is an annual audit that we do with Cadel Thorstensen. We'll be pulling those pieces through. One of the items that I'm hoping to see additional oversight on is our TIFs, to make sure that every TIF we have has had everything completed that was expected within it, and we're seeing the increment that we have expected on that, because in those cases, those developers make an investment in our community just like the community makes an investment, but if they're not paying off, they have to make up the difference. And so making sure that we're covered there is important. We expect to complete the sale of the Woodle Field land. The land under the football field belongs to the city, and the city and the school have been working together on that for a while, and we expect that to be finished this summer. We intend to fill some open staffing spots in HR and planning, which we haven't had filled for a while, to help obviously support the city's mission and objectives. And the 2026 budget is right around the corner. Capital improvement plan is going to see an update, but more importantly, or just as important, in parallel to that, hoping to see, 2024 was a tight spending year. We didn't do any spending. We didn't allow our Public Works Department to do any street maintenance. We're not talking about large capital improvement projects. We're talking about a lot of the maintenance that, small to medium type projects. And, working with our Public Works team, I hope that we can have a maintenance plan that helps us move forward, not just for this year, but for some future years. And one of the projects that could be considered maybe at the forefront of the maintenance end is work on Otter Road, where South Dakota Department of Transportation has actually already offered to pay a portion of the cost, and the previous council has ratified the expenditures of that, but all that went on pause as we tightened our spending for short term. Council and advisory board assignments have been completed, and we've got a new ordinance committee. We have a couple positions open for public involvement with our ordinance advisory committee. The intent with that committee is a high-level oversight with lots of use of subcommittees. So if you're involved in a specialized piece, you probably might be better fit for one of the subcommittees that spin off of that. But the desire is to try and get strong city leaders that aren't involved in other ways to help us understand and direct our ordinance committee. And their first piece is double down on Title VII. That's our governance document that also includes all the residual committees that we have in operation. There's been discussion, and I believe the desire to have a public safety committee back and maybe a finance committee. And I think public safety is a piece that would be very helpful for not just our law enforcement end, but stop sign placements and all of that. And I think that comes from some of our history. Maybe I'll lean on a couple of our counselors that were counselors in the 2000s, or in the 1900s, excuse me. Engagements and events. We haven't had a surplus auction for a number of years. We're going to need to hold a surplus auction, because we got items that are losing value. Not that there's a lot of value there, but they're losing value, and so we need to surplus those items. One item I know is a dozer with no transmission in it, right, at the landfill. And build on the full non-rally event schedule that we have going. We've got some new opportunities, and many of these non-rally event schedules are coming from private businesses bringing us forward. They're not city initiatives, and we're not spending money. We're doing what the city should do on that, is making sure people are safe and the garbage is picked up and people are filling those back in. And we'll begin the review of some of the metrics in our comprehensive plan, not the creation of the plan, develop an idea about what we accomplished in the current comp plan. And there's a bunch of metrics of predictions that were made. How many of those came true? Did we overshoot? Did we undershoot? The next year, obviously, the ordinance uplift is going to be a big piece of the entire next year. And of course, we want to push through this prioritized street maintenance side. And the community-driven infrastructure and growth focused comprehensive plan update is going to be a large portion of the next year. And benchmark tracking and goal alignment. So communication and transparency, the overused word transparency is certainly a part of open and clear communication. So in closing, I guess I would like to thank the council, the community, and the staff for the efforts that we've had and the direction that we're going to be able to go in the next year, the next 6 months, and commitment to transparency and fiscal responsibility. And for me, with a great deal of optimism for the end of 2025 and beyond, and ask that the community still is encouraged to be involved and build the community that they want to be part of, because we've had some people offer to be part of committees when before we had to go look for people, and so it's really nice to see that people are engaging in their community. So, thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments? I tried not to lie.
Thank you for that update, Mayor. That was much needed.
Thank you. All right, well, continuing on, we are now at item 8, the consent agenda. Please note that if you have the printed agenda, there is an item 8.6 that is for the Knuckle SEL. The consent agenda is considered as a whole. Is there anything on the consent agenda that a member of the public or a member of the council wants to have removed and considered separately? Hearing that there's no need to have anything considered separately, is there anyone willing to make a motion for the entire consent calendar, item 8.1 through 8.6?
I'll move to approve them.
I'll second.
We got a first by Mark, a second by Nick to approve the consent agenda in its entirety. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Item 9 is approval of the claims. Does anybody have any questions or concerns with the claims tonight? Somebody willing to motion the claims if there's no questions?
I'll second.
First by Terry, a second by Mark to approve the claims presented tonight. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That carried unanimously. I noted, I didn't mention that earlier, Councilor Jim Thompson has joined us by telephone, so Jim's on the phone. Item 10 is public hearings. 10.1 is consideration to approve an SEL for Sturgis Brewing Company for Music on Main, June 18th, July 16th, and August 20th. Aaron, do you have an agenda report you want to present on that, or?
I don't, actually. It's just Music on Main. They, was this where they gave dates? They did the dates. They changed their dates from, they had more, and then they were sharing with, they split it out a little bit.
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of the SELs for Music on Main, and so there's multiple establishments that have divvied up, and then there was one that they ended up changing out, so I think One Eye Jacks would get involved in it, but these are the three for for the Sturgis Brewing Company, for those 3 dates.
Okay, that's pretty straightforward. We offer a special events license at those events Wednesday nights during the summer, and they handle the beer sales. I guess it's nothing but malt beverages. Does anybody have any questions or comments about this? I guess we got to ask for a motion. Is somebody willing to motion the,
I'll motion for approval.
I'll second it.
we got a first by Alex, a second by Tony to approve the SEL for Sturgis Brewing on those 3 dates. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. All right. Item 11 is reports. 11.1 is consideration to approve Resolution 2025-27, canceling the 2025 Spirit of Sturgis TT. The report included in the packet has all the information that goes along with it. There's an extensive narrative that has spanned quite some time. But before this, I guess, before we get into discussion on this, I'm going to go ahead and ask, is there anyone that is considering or looking to declare a conflict?
Points on the report, just corrections that have nothing to do with necessarily the numbers or anything like that. The first sentence, it says that on February 20th, the Sturgis City Council voted 5-3 to approve a 5-year host agreement with American Flat Track Events, LLC, AFTE, the sanctioning body of AMA Pro Racing. Just want a point of clarification. AMA Pro Racing is the sanctioning body, not AFTE. They were the promoter. I am for accurate information, so I wanted to put that out there. And then further down under D, the mayor's report of communications, you, Kevin, Mayor, said that when you assumed the duties of mayor on January 9th, 2025, just a point of clarity, you actually assumed the duties of mayor on October 21st, right, when Angela resigned, according to state law?
I was still the council president
Yes.
at that point. Yeah, I just was the acting,
Yes, the acting mayor,
yeah,
which assumes the duties.
but I still voted during that time.
Right.
All right, so back to the pointed order.
Yes, so I will abstain from discussion and from voting because of the perception of a conflict of interest. And if anyone has any questions, I am happy to answer that.
Any questions involving that? Any comments? Okay, continuing on to the discussion on the report. Clear and accurate accounting hasn't been provided yet. In fact, we had a meeting back in October, I believe, at the Erskine Building that was more involved in half-mile discussion than it was talking about our expenditures. Going forward, we've had not clear understanding of who the checks were written to and how that went forward. Every time the conversation circled back to the half mile, at which the city, myself, said, bring us a proposal, which we never got a proposal that was complete enough to evaluate terms, profit sort of a piece. And that led to the fact that even on their own accord, that the Sturgis TT was not going to cash flow for 2025. In waiting for the proposal to come, we hit the time that we couldn't make a decision and have it not be referred and decided before the rally. So we've hit the end of when we can make adjustments to that. And so with that, I don't see any other thing that we can do other than to cancel the 2025 Spirit of TT race. Eric, can you add to anything that I,
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Eric Davis, City Attorney. You know, I mentioned to you a few meetings ago when I gave you a report, just kind of as an update of what I've been working on since my engagement. I was curious and I looked up today. About a third of the time that I've spent working on matters for the city of Sturgis has been dedicated to this issue with AFT. So it's been very time consuming, and it was, as I mentioned to you a month ago, really the first thing that the mayor and Aaron pulled me in on to help get resolved. And the resolution that's being recommended for your approval this evening is the end result of those months of communication, numerous communications between representatives between the city and AFT. I've participated in all those discussions. I've advised the mayor and Aaron along the way. I do support the recommendation to cancel the 2025 race. And the bottom line is that the city and AFT have what appears to be irreconcilable interpretations of the co-host agreement. In my opinion, that agreement is vague. It's not well drafted. It's subject to several reasonable interpretations under the facts as they played out. And, you know, I get where AFT is coming from, even though I don't agree with its position. And I think AFT gets, that's my assessment, where the city is coming from, even though they don't agree with our position. And you don't have to be an attorney to understand that people can experience the same event in the world or can read the same contract and can reach differing conclusions about what it says or what that experience was. And in the end, it may very well take a judge to tell us who is responsible for the financial losses associated with this venture. I don't know. But that is kind of the conclusion that I think we reached with AFT relatively early on in the discussions. And as the mayor indicated in the report, when we were discussing with AFT, we together, both of us tried to pivot, set aside those differing interpretations of the contract and said essentially, let's approach this as partners. Let's try to, not as adversaries. If we're going to save this, how are we going to make it work? And to that end, AFT did offer at least the framework of a new proposal whereby they would partner with the Jack Pine Gypsies to bring the race from downtown to the half-mile track at the fairgrounds. And in my assessment, that proposal was big on vision, but a little short on details. So we workshopped it with AFT, kind of give them an idea from a staff level standpoint, from a legal standpoint of some of the considerations and challenges that we anticipated. But we made sure that AFT knew that it wasn't me, it wasn't the mayor, it wasn't Aaron that they needed to convince on the merits of this new proposal. It was going to have to come before the city council and would require action by you all. And as the mayor explained in the report, about 3 weeks ago, AFT did email a proposal with 3 main points. One was that the city write a check for approximately $500,000 to cover the losses of the 2024 event. 2, that AFT would release the city from the second year of the co-host agreement, and instead, the 3rd point was that AFT and the city would pursue a long-term lease agreement for the fairgrounds property and that the race would be held there. And, we essentially told AFT that we would be happy to bring that proposal to the council for its consideration, but that we were facing, in my view, at least 2 major issues. First, the fairgrounds property is a pretty hot button political issue, and I think the citizens of Sturgis are hardly unanimous in their view of what the city should do with that property. If you ask a dozen people, you might get a dozen different answers, ranging from selling it to the school, to building a field house, to motorcycle racing, to turning it into a housing development, and everywhere in between. Community sentiment generally in Sturgis, especially since the last election and the direction that I've received from this city council, is that these kinds of major policy decisions should be made with the benefit of an updated comprehensive plan, more time, more analysis, more public input, and the timing of this proposal just made that exceedingly difficult. And, even if AFT were to present the most financially beneficial proposal to the city that we could ever imagine, I think there's likely some people out there, and maybe some people on this council, who would still think that racing wasn't an appropriate use for the fairgrounds. We don't know, but express to them that this is a big political issue for us that we're being asked to push through rather quickly. It's not that we're not interested, but that's just a factor that we have to consider. And second, the proposal that AFT submitted, it didn't include a proposed lease term of what their view of a quote-unquote long-term lease was, and it didn't have any kind of indication of what AFT's payment on that lease would be to the city, whether it's a 99-year lease with a $1 a year annual payment, or whether it's a 5-year lease with a $500,000 a year payment, or somewhere in between. That really affects the analysis on whether this decision is going to make sense. And I told AFT, you know, I'm happy to take this proposal to the council, but like I can tell you right now, they are not until they know AFT's intentions on these key terms. And at the last conference call that we had with AFT, you know, the position that we were in is that the race was only 12 weeks away. We were coming up against some really hard deadlines. We pulled up the calendar, looked at it, and said, all right, factoring in council meeting dates, the time necessary to negotiate and draft a new agreement for the council's consideration, then after publication, 20 days for a referendum period, and then 45 days to hold a special election if there's an election. We might not know if we're racing downtown or at the fairgrounds until a week before the race. And AFT said, hey, no problem, we did it before, we can do it again. And we said, okay, get us a proposal that we can present to the council and see if they want to devote, have me essentially, and Aaron, and probably others, devote the staff time that's necessary to figure out all these details, negotiate, and draft a new agreement to get it on a council agenda. That was back in the end of April, I think April 24th and 25th. We had a follow-up conversation like the week before the May 16th council meeting and said, you know, we're going to need at least those key terms and anything else you want to provide us by noon on Friday so we can get it on the agenda for the council's May 16th meeting. That, in my recollection, was communicated very clearly to AFT and understood by them, and we didn't get a proposal, and we still don't have a proposal today. So the question is not whether we should be having the race at the fairgrounds. We don't have the proposal for that. The question is, what do we do now that we're here? And, you know, let's say that we get a proposal from AFT and we could move heaven and earth to have a final agreement that's negotiated through staff, our staff, their staff, both legal counsels, ready in time for the June 16th meeting. That's the next meeting, and that it's approved. If you factor in the 20-day referendum period after publication, that puts us mid-July. So that would give AFT about 3 weeks to put on the race if there is no referendum. And if there is a referendum, it's impossible. So if, you know, I'm here to give you options. If the council wants Aaron and I to, you know, reprioritize our work and to dedicate the next 2 weeks to making that happen in the hopes that there isn't a referendum, we can certainly do that if that's the council's direction. Otherwise, under the co-host agreement, despite, you know, one of the provisions that we don't disagree on is that there's going to be another race downtown again this year, and based on what we've seen with the financial information and based on the representations from AFT, that race is likely going to lose another $500,000 or more. And considering AFT's position that the city bears the entire risk for another unprofitable race, it's up to you whether or not you think that is a reasonable use of taxpayer funds under the circumstances. It's your decision, not mine. You know, I think just my final reflections on this after spending so much time on it, you know, the idea to hold this race, it didn't originate with anyone that is up there on the dais or any of the elected or appointed officials that are here now, but it's our problem now. We need to deal with it. And I think it would be really easy, really tempting to zoom way in and focus on why the 2004 race didn't meet financial expectations. And I think that would be a really interesting and informative exercise and analysis, and one that I hope will occur at some point in the future. But like where we're at now is we don't have the information necessary to do that. We're still trying to seek that information from AFT. The question is, what do we do now? And after this time and the analysis that we've gone through and the communications with AFT and the failure to have a new proposal for you to consider, the best legal advice I can give you at this point is to cancel the 2025 race to mitigate damages, to reduce the city's potential liability, and that would be the recommendation. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. I am not going to get into, the specifics of my interpretations of the co-host agreement or how it might differ from AFT's. I'll be happy to discuss that with you in executive session if anyone wants to talk about that. But I am happy to answer, or at least try to answer any questions from the council.
Thank you, Eric. That was a good chronological recap. Any questions from the council? How about,
AFT was certain if we had another race, it was going to lose money. Or that was their thought.
I'll let Aaron and Kevin speak to their recollections of it. My recollection is that was made very clear. Unless it was expected that we got, I believe I remember Gene Crouch saying, and it may be incorrect, but I think I remember him saying that race was likely to lose as much money as it did unless we got a new high 6 or 7-figure sponsor, and that wasn't anticipated. And I believe, and I don't want to speak for AFT, I believe part of the ones is that it would be a less expensive venue to hold a race than the streets of downtown Sturgis was. They're just they pulled it off. They brought it up out of the ground. It was a successful race, but logistically it's difficult with the 24-hour turnaround and a lot of other factors that go into that. So I think changing the venue was in part, I don't know all the motivations, of course, but at least in part motivated by the idea that it would reduce expenses.
you good, Jesse? Anybody from the audience have a comment or question? Is there a member of the council willing to motion Resolution 2025-27?
Mr.
Mayor.
I'll second. Oh, we got Jim on the phone.
Jim was on the phone. Jim, can you hear us?
Yes, I would like to approve Resolution 2025-27, canceling the 2025 Spirit of Sturgis TT. I think somebody already got that, but I was trying to get in to say it.
Okay. Alex, you gonna let Jim have it, or?
I'll own it.
Okay. Alex had a first, Jim. Terry had a second. The phone delay held you off on this one, but we'll continue on.
I just wanted to make my opinion known.
Very good. So we've had a first by Alex, a second by Terry. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Hearing none, I am going to call for the vote, and I'm going to do a roll call since we have a person on the phone. And Jim, I'm going to start with you. Jim, what's your vote?
I would vote to cancel the 2025 Spirit of Sturgis TT.
So vote to approve the motion.
Correct.
Okay, Mark?
Yes.
Jesse?
Not gonna let me say abstain.
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Ruth, you want to declare
Abstain.
abstention? So that motion carried 7-1, 7 yeses and 1 abstention.
7-0.
7-0 is the call. Very good. Sturgis Rally Charities is item 11.2. We've got Marcia Johnston, the chairman of the Rally Charities Group, or chairperson, pardon me. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. First of all, I would like to introduce and let you know our board. So we have, according to our bylaws, we have certain entities that need to be represented. First of all is the Sturgis City Council, and as far as I know, I believe Mayor Kevin is still our representative, or did you put someone else?
Actually, as of our last, it is you, yeah.
It's Terry. Okay, welcome,
Yeah.
Terry.
Sorry for the stammer.
That's okay. Meade School District Representative is Heidi Cruz. Sturgis Alliance of Churches is Pastor Carla Nelson from the Grace Lutheran Church. A Sturgis Rally Business is Tessa Gunderson, who is also our secretary. Meade County Seniors is Barry Furs, who is our vice president. At large, we have Brenda Sabers, who is our treasurer, Eric Fowler, Debbie Havela, and myself, and I'm president. To give you, well, the reason we asked to be here tonight was many of you, I'm sure, either don't know about us, maybe even haven't heard of us, or have no idea what we do or how we do it or when we started. So we just wanted to come and give you an indication of some of the things that we do. Back in October 2002, there was a merging of Sturgis Rally Youth Charities and the Foundation for the Residents of Sturgis. Now, I can't tell you when or how the Foundation for the Residents of Sturgis came to be. That was way before my time. The Sturgis Rally Youth Charities came out of a company that the chamber had hired to represent back then the interests with the rally logo and all of that was going on back then. So they wanted to start a charity that came out of proceeds from the rally, but it was going to be for the youth. Well, having two kind of like charities going on, my recollection from past people was that that's what it took to form this new one. So we became Sturgis Rally Charities Foundation Incorporated, and that happened in 2002. Our purpose is to benefit and serve the residents of Sturgis. We ask for applications from charities that must be within the Sturgis city limits or within the Meade School District. Or they have to show a direct use of our citizens, therefore. Like, for instance, we did give money to the Good Shepherd's Clinic over in Spearfish after seeing how many of our residents from Sturgis go over there. There was a line item, which some of you saw on the council budget for $25,000 to go to Sturgis Charities. Now, I was on the council years ago, and it was hard to sit up there and have all of your friends and neighbors come in and present for their charity and why $25,000 should get divvied up to the different organizations. It was extremely hard to make that decision. So several years ago, the council asked our organization to take that $25,000 and put it in with the rest of our proceeds to give out, because that's what we do. We go through applications, we find out who needs what and how they're going to use it, and if they've gotten money from us before, have they used it for that purpose? So when you saw that there used to be a $25,000 line item, that's what it went for. I don't know when that started. It was a line item when I was on the council. So the history of that, I don't know. I hope that in maybe a couple of years down the road, you can put us back on that line item. We'd really appreciate it. Our funding, which Brenda's going to talk about a little more in depth, used to come from proceeds from SMRI. We got a percentage, and we also got a percentage from sponsorship from them, and then from the city, a percentage of rally rentals. So if somebody was going to rent out from the auditorium, or they were going to rent out at Rally Point, whatever those were, we got a percentage of that came to us then at the end of the year to be given out. So that's where we used to receive our funding. As SMRI lost their court cases to be able to continue to get that licensing money, the council at the time was trying to come up with ideas for how we could stay funded. At that time, we were told about the endowment, which we really don't know anything about the endowment other than there's an endowment. And money has been placed into it. The original thought was, as money is put into that, then down the road, if there's no rally, we would still have income then coming in off of that, and we could continue to give to our charities. This same time, that's when they decided they wanted to try to do the cups for malt beverages during the rally. We came in support of that, understanding that once the cups were paid for, we were to get 50% of the proceeds, and the endowment would get 50% of the proceeds. We get now whatever is given to us for that, and quite frankly, we never know how much that's going to be. And we haven't the last several years until we finally get a check. So at this point, I want to turn it over to Brenda to kind of go over some of the financial stuff. What I gave out to you was a total of what we have given since 2002 to the various charities, and you'll see it's a long list. It's a huge list of people who have gotten money because of the rally. We have had a few other things that come in with a certain percentage of money for us. And Brenda, go ahead and take it away.
Okay, thank you. I've been a board member since 2017 and the treasurer of Sturgis Rally Charities since 2018. I've been honored to be able to see all of the good, tangible stuff for our citizens that comes from the rally. So, and it's not an easy feat. We receive applications every October. We sit down. Most of the time, our requests are triple the amount of money that we have, and that's when we were getting close to $80,000. Now, if we get $25,000, it makes those requests even harder. But since the inception in 2002 of Sturgis Rally Charities, we have dispersed $1,248,397 to our local Sturgis and Meade School District nonprofits, and all funds, like Marcia said, are required to stay local. Those numbers we have broken down into several categories just to kind of give you guys a breakdown. You have the entire list, but we do have approximate amounts for each category. So community health, we have dispersed $290,000. That's such as the crisis shelter, Compass Point. Community assistance, $270,000. That's areas such as Black Hills Habitat for Humanity, Hillsview High Rise. Medical assistance, $11,000. Things like Good Shepherd Clinic that benefit specifically Sturgis residents. Ministerial assistance, $117,000. That goes to the Alliance of Churches, St. Vincent de Paul, who then hand out that money to our residents in need. Meade School District programs, $170,000. We have, I believe, since the inception of the dental bus that comes once a year to the elementary school, provided the funding to have that come. Also, drug-free programs, PTA, reading challenges, etc. Senior organizations, $125,000. Things such as the Senior Center, Prairie Hills Transit. and youth programs, $265,000. The summer reading program through the library and various other programs, Little League, community preschools, and I think anyone that has a youth organization has come at some point and asked us for money. Again, some of these organizations come to us yearly and ask for assistance. Some come for a one-time need and never ask again. So it is money that is put where it is needed. As Marcia said, we have gotten money from the city. Things from Rally included the Mayor's Poker Ride, poker tournament, a bourbon raffle at Sturgis Liquor, the open container cup sales, and then the Challenge for Charities Gala. We do get other outside sources that want to donate to us because they see what we're doing and it's a benefit of the rally to our residents. And those are Jack Daniel's tastings, the Camaro Rally, the Loud American Rally parking lot proceeds, donations from local businesses including Black Hills Rally and Gold, Indian Motorcycle, BJ's Conoco, among other individual community donations. Along with this, when Jack Daniel started giving us through their tastings, they also came to us and said, we also want to make our presence known in the community, and we want to donate $10,000 a year to be used for 4 $2,500 scholarships for graduating seniors of Sturgis Brown High School. So since 2018, we've received over $68,000 in scholarships funds from Brown Forman and Jack Daniels that we have awarded 4 individual scholarship funds each year of $2,500. We just did that. I was out at the high school on senior banquet in the middle of May and had 4 very gracious seniors that will be getting $2,500 each from them. So a direct result of the rally and the Jack Daniel's sponsorship coming back in a totally other form. So what we are doing may seem small, $25,000 at a time, but over the years, over $1.2 million is a huge commitment to our community.
So I guess the main reason was to inform you about us, what we do. I gotta say, this last year was extremely tough. I understand, we all do. But we'd like you to just keep us in your mind as you go forward. In the past, we've had different rallies like the Camaro Rally and those that might do a poker run or something, and we might get $2,500, $3,000 from something like that. Every little bit helps. So it's tough when we have to talk to these charities and say, we don't have the money. We don't know where to get it from. I do have a suggestion. Originally, when the cups were talked about, I had asked, wherever you're selling the cups, would you please put up a sign that says, proceeds go to Sturgis Rally Charities? It would be really nice if we could get something like that. So maybe put that under your cap and think about it as to how we could do that. I have several people that have talked to me about they've either sold the cups or they know of people who have bought the cups or would buy the cups, but they didn't want to support Budweiser. Well, I understand having a supporter on there is great, but they think the money goes back into Sturgis or back to Budweiser. So if there's some way that we could say the proceeds go to charities here in Sturgis, it might help us sell maybe a couple of more cups. Anybody have any questions for us?
Just a comment, I was involved the last year with the group, and very impressive. You're a very dedicated group and very knowledgeable about all the various subjects. I mean, you look at your list, there's a lot of worthy recipients there.
And it's, somebody might say, well, don't you have your pet projects? Well, yeah, we do. When you see what that dental bus can do for our kids in this community, and we pay for 2 dental buses coming in every year, those kids have never seen a dentist that go in that dental bus. They've never had any dental work done, and it doesn't cost them a dime. and they feel so much better about themselves when they're done. We've had the opportunity to go and tour the dental bus and talk to the teachers that are bringing the kids in. It's an experience, it really is. So just food for thought, and please, if you have questions down the road, don't hesitate to call me or any of the other board members. We're happy to talk about this because it's a great thing to do, but it's hard when we're limited on money. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to say I'm looking forward to working with you guys.
Okay, continuing on, agenda item 11.3 is consideration to approve motorcycle-only parking July 28th through 31st. We got Mr. Mark.
Good evening, council, mayor, city officials. I am Mark Brook with the Downtown Sturgis Foundation, which is the, we are made up of the downtown bid board, plus Amanda from SEDC and Veronica from the chamber, and representative. So I'm here tonight to, I guess with a little bit of background here. This is a topic that was, our board was asked to bring or come up with, a proposal idea, how to handle, I guess, parking going into Raleigh. This probably 2 or 3 years ago now. So this is actually the second time this has come before council, and it has to do with that time frame in the week prior to Raleigh. So what we did this year is we sent out years ago we had a meeting with property owners, and we had, our board worked on it quite a while. We brought a proposal. At the time, the council didn't want to make any changes. So this year we sent out an email in March and to all the business owners that we had or email addresses for, and also sent a letter out for everybody we had addresses for. And I did receive, as most things go, I didn't get a ton of feedback. I probably, in email responses, got about 10 from downtown businesses. I ran around downtown and talked to probably 6 or 8 more. Yeah, I'll just jump to part of the letter, which it's a proposal to enhance the guest experience during what has become the second busiest week of the year in our downtown. The idea is to reserve parking on both sides of Main Street. And in the letter sent out in March, I talked about, or originally our idea was from First Street to, from Junction Avenue to 4th Street. We've since, in discussions and a little bit of discussion with Aaron and the mayor, back that off a little bit. Or the proposal now would be to go from First Street to 4th Street with exclusive to motorcycles from Monday, July 28th through Thursday, July 31st. I guess the be the 4 days, but basically before the streets closed for the like it is every year for the Sturgis Rally. This adjustment would not affect traffic flow. All vehicles would be able to travel in both directions on Main Street. Regular vehicle parking would be available on from Junction to 1st Street, and of course to the west on 4th Street. To get to the goals of this is really to create a more welcoming and authentic experience for the visitors we have in Sturgis. And this audience in the week prior to Raleigh has grown exponentially over the last decade. I think most of our businesses would agree that some of the biggest growth we've seen is that week prior, and that the week prior to the official event is by far outside of the week of the busiest week of the year, and I'm confident in saying by several times busier than any other week of the year. So I'm just trying to I guess, relay the impact of that, those days leading up to the official start of the motorcycle rally. Number one goal would be to enhance the atmosphere for our early guests and give them a taste of the rally experience. A lot of the folks we see coming early are folks that can't necessarily make it the week of. We oftentimes hear that, school starts in different parts of the country at times, and when we have a late rally, it can actually, it's believed it can affect our numbers even when our rally ends up a little bit deeper in August. The second big reason would be to help reduce the all-day parking by vendors, delivery vehicles, and temporary employees. This is something that a lot of us are down there in the days prior to the official start, and our downtown is really kind of chaos for, as we've got vendors moving stuff in, which is needed, of course, but when we get to that window of time where our visitors are really out spending money, I think it's important that we roll out the red carpet and take good care of them. And in my conversations up and down the street, I talked to one business owner. This was actually in the first block of Main Street, that talked about how several of the parking spots in the front of their business were taken up in the days leading up to rally by employees of the neighboring business. And I've seen it up on our end of the street and between 3rd and 4th. And our employees at Loud understand this, because I'm really a Nazi about it. If you work down there, you're not parking around that building during the peak season. So this is again, our vendors need to get in and out. Our delivery vehicles, I feel like we need more of them to be using the alleys. And we need to really roll out the carpet for our guests that are showing up in the days prior. This would also, I feel like, would improve our traffic flow and increase our business activity and encourage a more dynamic and engaging environment for our guests. So in the letter, I explained that, I understand that this is, there'll definitely be some opinions on this. And the very first thing I can hear people saying is, all you want to do is extend the rally. And to be honest with you, this isn't to extend the rally, it's to take care of the guests that we have coming here, because we can't control when these folks are coming to visit, and it's clear they want to come and visit at that time frame. And so giving them a little bit of the experience that they would expect, and knowing that the reason they're stopping here, revolves around that event. So this isn't an attempt to extend the rally. Those people are already here, and we can't control when they're coming. We just want to take good care of them when they're here. I've made this comparison more than once. Downtown, I consider those parking spots similar to tables in a restaurant, in that you want them to turn over throughout the day. You don't want one vehicle sitting there parked there all day because they're the temporary employee from Colorado that happened to work early in the day and took the spot downtown. So I guess that kind of overall explains it. This is it really is about improving the guest experience and trying to manage the downtown parking in a way that is relatively as inexpensive as I can think, and again, provide that experience. So with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you, Mark. I guess I'll give a chance to the other council. I have a couple questions myself, but members of the council.
What was the revised, you said it was originally going to be from Junction. What did you change it to?
It'd basically be 3 blocks. It'd be from 1st Street to 4th Street.
Was originally Junction.
It was originally Junction. And in the feedback that I got, there was you know, I ended up with, let's see, I had 11 that were for it, had 2 that were, or excuse me, 1 that was against it in Main Street, and really the 2 that had no opinion. And the folks that were really kind of more concerned about it were in that first block of Main Street. And you know, the first block from Junction to First Street does have a little more broad-based business in there. When we get to from First through Fourth, especially when we get to that week prior, really most of the businesses in that stretch are, well, how would you put it, set up for rally or rally ready or rally, you know, businesses, for lack of a better term.
Do you mind if I just try to summarize what the problem is that you're trying to solve, just so I can
Sure.
summarize what I'm hearing from you?
Sure.
Is it correct that what I'm hearing is that the problem that you're seeing is that there is an increasing amount of traffic, motorcycle traffic, the week leading into the rally, and that you as downtown businesses are seeing them have problems parking in front of the businesses, and that those spots are being taken up by people loading, vendors loading, employees loading, and so you're looking to solve that problem and cater to the tourists that are coming in that just happen to be riding motorcycles, and it happens to be leading into the rally, so that our local businesses can see the benefits of those people coming in and being able to spend their money here, as opposed to driving through and being like, I'm not going to stop because I can't park.
That's pretty good. I should have had you
Okay.
catch it.
Well, I've had the pleasure of being on the downtown bid board for the past several months too, so I've been listening to the conversations and everything too. My understanding also is that you've done your due diligence of reaching out to people and being proactive and reaching out to people who were unresponsive. So kudos to you and doing all the legwork for that.
Thank you.
I would like to know from Jody, is there going to be a problem with vendors parking in the alleyways and just walking off? And how are we going to control that? Is that more policing for you, Jody?
So there's currently an ordinance as well that does not allow from July 15th, August 15th. Coming in, hauling stuff, they can't parallel park because they can only diagonal, but it's from, I believe, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. They have to be on a side street. So it's definitely a nightmare during that pre-rally with, you have your motorcycles like Mark's talked about. You have your tourists that come in driving regular vehicles. Then you have your vendors, your employees and stuff. And it's a nightmare to enforce. And it's still going to be a nightmare. You know, if you change it to just motorcycle rally, I think or motorcycle parking only, I think there's going to be a lot of pressure put on us to enforce that.
I guess I'm wondering too, what's it going to do to the side streets and, you know, residential, covering up driveways and putting all the vendors on the side streets because they're trying to me, it's just like, have we really thought about this? I know the vendor parking it's been an issue for a long time, and I don't know if the city needs to get involved on having a spot for them to park, busing them back and forth. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I'm just concerned. I don't want the downtown businesses that are open that week. You know, I want the best for the Sturgis businesses. But now, with some of these vendors that were parking on Main Street, don't they own some of the business fronts too?
I can't say for sure, but I would assume so. And we try to go back to, I didn't answer the other part of your question, we try to push them in the alley as much as possible. But, and the alleys are usually congested during that as well with some of the back shop vendors as well as some of the front vendors that they're trying to haul stuff around, as well as your locals, distributors that are trying to get their food supplies in and the drink supplies as well. So
I'm just concerned, you know, the alleys being all plugged up, because a lot of the local residents, they use the alleys. We know about the alleys, you know, so we'll use them that week. If we need to do any business downtown, we use them. And if they're plugged up with vendors, I don't know. It's a concern of mine. wanted to hear from you on that.
There's no easy fix, you know. It's, if I'm being honest, it's a nightmare. We get into some knockdown, drag out fights almost literally with some of these people trying to enforce an ordinance that you guys put in place. It's a nightmare for the police department to enforce and try to address one person, and you can walk down the end of the block and come back and someone else is pulled right in there, and so we have to address it again. And usually get compliance is when we start calling for wreckers, and we get wreckers showing up, and that's how we get compliance sometimes, if we can even find them. But everybody wants that primo spot, like Mark says, whether it's staff or vendors. No one wants to carry their stuff. You'll see a lot of these people are using some of their electric scooters now that are even becoming hazards, and they're running 3 blocks away, loading up many boxes as they can carry on their lap, and then coming back down to their vending spot, you know. So there's multiple issues and concerns there.
I was going to ask Mark too, do you see a lot of the vendors that are parked out front, are a lot of them your vendors? Are they vendors from 3 blocks away?
We don't vend anything on our property. I guess this year we potentially have one vendor. Everything else we manage ourselves on that block. What I see are, and I guess this is something, you know, regarding deliveries, and I think I spoke with Aaron about this a few months ago. I think the ordinance, as we're talking about ordinance, could be changed as far as deliveries go. Really, the activity downtown pick up till even on an anniversary year rally till 10 o'clock in the morning, and I think right now the ordinance might be they have to be off the street by 8 o'clock, I believe.
8 a.m. to 6 p.m. they can't be there.
So if that could be 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. in order to open that window up a little bit more, but then we get to a point where you know, our tourists wake up and start pulling off the interstate, and that's more what I'm concerned about. And as far as congestion goes, you know, I'd much rather see the congestion in the alleys than on our main street when again, the revenue is pouring in for both our businesses and our, you know, of course, sales tax comes from that, so.
Well, back in the 1900s when I was on the council, I was we'd see families come in the week before in cars. So is there still is that still going on? We get, you know, like a family going to Yellowstone that might want to walk the kids down.
Absolutely, and I think that's why, you know, that's, you know, a good reason to leave the first block open, and it's, you know, they have the east side of Junction, and, you know, and all the side streets are still open. I guess what I'm saying is it's almost kind of a realignment of the people. The people are here, the vendors are here. I'm just trying to organize it a little bit so more of the bikes end up on Main Street to manage some of the vehicles there, and those vehicles end up more on the side streets versus, you know, the bikes our guests on bikes having to, you know, find a place to park. Once that carload of people that stopped here that you're talking about gets on Main Street, they see rows of bikes, which is what, you know, again, they pulled off the interstate for.
But are you saying then that you don't want anybody that's not on a bike?
Not at all.
Well, you are kind of though. You're telling them that they can't park down on 3 blocks. And that kind of is a message you're sending.
I would disagree with that. I've always put it this way: we want every guest that we can get anytime, all year long, and I want to do the best we can to treat them as good as we can. And of course, I'm here tonight wearing my bid board president hat, and that we feel that this is what's going to be the most beneficial for our businesses downtown. And it's worth a try. So,
yeah. So Mark, we did talk about this some time ago, and you know, some of the concerns have been brought up by the council here. I mean, I like that you surveyed. A question that I would have is, whether or not there's been some discussion. I mean, I spent 30 years with Meade County. I know where people park the week before the rally. You know, they park on Main Street, but they also park in all of our public lots around. So is there a cause and effect expected, and how would we manage that to where we have to run parking security at, the county has to open parking security the week before. The city lot, partially city, partially First Interstate Bank across the street, gets us, you know, sideways because we're controlling parking at a time that is maybe arguably the most busy at City Hall here. I mean, if we're selling vendor licenses, and of course then we have to relocate all of our handicap spots. You know, with that, it certainly seems like, you know, we could find some middle ground to make this happen. And in listening to what we've talked about here, I mean, it sounded like this started just as an overall, we got people that park on Main Street and leave their vehicles there all day. That's a different problem than we're trying to recreate the rally, I guess. I might be a little different on that, but isn't it kind of like a movie trailer that they only give you enough of the movie that you want to come back and pay a ticket and show up during, you know, see the movie. If the trailer was too strong, you probably wouldn't come back. Isn't that what we want for the rally? I mean, give enough rally that, geez, this looks like something we want to come on back. And so how could we do that? I mean, would it be reasonable to talk? Would the council have engagement to where we don't designate motorcycle only? Maybe we could choose some places. You know, one of the discussions we had was maybe some of the side streets, but that didn't provide the, you know, to quote you and not throw you under the bus here, but the iconic photo.
Right.
Of course, we know when that happens. That happens during the rally. I mean, isn't that showing too much of the trailer? So would a compromise be, could we control parking to 2 hours or something on all of Main Street and still allow all of our residents to get to those businesses? Because there might only be a few businesses, but they're banks. They're the things residents are visiting. They're insurance businesses that people, you know, are leaving town, maybe renting their properties. They're attending those pieces. And if we could come up with a process that doesn't maybe even have a negative effect. You talk about sales tax. If we would Lynn's parking lot, those residents that are trying to stock up, I know that's what my family does the week before the rally, is make sure that you can survive the rally. It's almost like a summertime blizzard. And if you can't go buy groceries at your local grocery store, I mean, do we push those people to out of town? I'm not saying that that's where we're going, but it seems like that we could come up with a consensus that would help us find middle ground, provide this better experience for the people that are coming in, the tourists, but not only the ones that are on motorcycles, and not set our residents up to suffer the burden as well. Does any of that sound like it makes sense?
Well, I guess, you know, again, we're not adding vehicles. We're rearranging which vehicles are here, I guess is the way I see it. And then, and I don't know what another version would be without taxing the police department or to manage vehicles on Main Street, I guess. And this seemed like a win-win, because we somewhat see it organically happen right now, at least up on the end of the street that I live for, you know, a month around that time. Throughout the day, those cars work their way out. By the end of the day, it's nearly all motorcycles are, and this starts as early, I think I've got photos in my phone starting as soon as even the weekend prior, but certainly by the Monday prior, and especially on a year like this year where we're going into a quasi-anniversary being the 85th, so.
So you don't think there's the only solution is?
I don't know what another solution is that isn't going to take city staff or PD to manage
Well,
cars
all,
downtown.
all of the options probably take city staff. All of the options have cost. We have to sign and, make those sort of things happen. They would all, but what it would do is it wouldn't leave empty spaces. I mean, if we take four blocks of Main Street, or 3 blocks, excuse me, and make it motorcycle parking only, and there's not enough motorcycles to fill all those spots, it doesn't get filled by some other vehicle, by the person from wherever that's coming through headed on their vacation to Yellowstone, and they want to take a look. And, if we push those people out, do we push future rally attendees out? I mean, that's outside of my knowledge set, but it seems like we could come up with it's gonna cost us labor either way. I mean, we gotta enforce motorcycle only parking, or we could enforce 2-hour limits. We wouldn't have those people clogging those spaces all day, and they would turn over like those tables you want. I mean, do you only want people wearing black bandanas during that time, or do you want people that wear anything?
No, like I said, I want everybody, and we know that there's carloads that come in that, that happen to be paying attention to their calendar and happen to see the billboards and go, oh my goodness, we gotta stop there because that's happening next week. Let's see what it looks like. I wanna show them a little bit what it looks like, so.
Mark, I can certainly appreciate what you're trying to accomplish, but I hate to push out all of the cars. And I don't know if this is the answer, or maybe this isn't a great idea, but what if it was just the north or the south side, one side of Main Street?
I guess
I
that
mean,
could be an idea, yeah.
maybe that's the compromise. I don't know.
I do know this, the block between 3rd and 4th Street, there's nobody that's against this idea on both sides of the street. And I always feel like anything we do should tie into, and I'm trying to be cautious because I'm obviously involved in the Loud American, but I'm also the bid board president. When this first came around 2 to 3 years ago, and we had the meeting with the business, their proposal, and this was from the business owners, that it went all the way from, I forgot the name of the street down by Middle, all the way from Middle to 4th Street. I felt like that was probably a little bit far, but that's what the business owners were saying then. And I guess in doing, in the resurvey here, I'm still finding the same thing, that, this is what the business owners are, again, it was 11 in responses and emails for, and only 1 against and 1 with no real opinion. So I want to make sure that this whole idea is, I'm trying not to create any more headaches than the chief already has. I certainly don't want to create any more headaches than Rick has. And my idea would be, basically the barricades we use with some signs similar to what we already do from 4th to 5th Street during the rally. And it's more of an education campaign than an enforcement campaign, if that makes sense. In other words, and I've had business owners tell me that they would, they could help inform people that, maybe missed the sign on the way in or whatever it might be. So I still think this is it's worth a try, whether it's on part of the street, whether it's on the proposed section. And again, trying to wear my hat wear my downtown bid hat and bringing this to y'all, so.
I have a couple questions. Is there anybody here who would be opposed to this? Anyone attending the meeting? Any business owners? What? Francie, did you have anything to? Sorry to call you out. You raised your hand. I saw you first.
I'm Francie Alberts. I have a concern about this in a couple of ways. First of all, and nothing against you, we're really close to the rally. And I know when I've gone down Main Street, the biggest problem is all the vendors are parked there unloading their product. If you can let them know in advance, then they can make plans. You can give them suggestions about where they can park and how they can unload. But we're, 2 months away from the rally. That's not enough time. They can, yes, I'm glad that the property owners are willing to say we can help out, but is there a plan to help them to do that? I like the idea of trying it and going 3 blocks instead of 4 blocks. Maybe consider Jesse's idea, trying it on one side and see how it works. Because, yes, there are motorcycles up there, and I'm amazed up where I live. I have very few motorcycles parked up there. I have trucks parked up there all the time. So I think there are questions that have to be asked, and how are you going to let people know what's going to be done? Signage is great. The guy comes in on the way to Yellowstone, oh, they're so excited, and they're going to park in the motorcycle parking, and then they're towed. So are there ways we can handle that?
What's the process right now for when communicating with vendors, where they can park?
I think it comes through the ordinance permitting process, if I'm not mistaken.
So the vendors right now, like I said, if they can fit in there like a pickup and they can fit in there without blocking the road, they can park there legally. But if they're in a big old moving vehicle, we make them park on a side street or off of Main Street, unless it's after 6 p.m. or before 8 a.m. Then they're allowed to park however they want. But it also gets to be still pretty chaotic because at night you have people coming and enjoying some of the events downtown, whether it's some music in the bars beforehand or supper. And so then you get a little clash of people trying to park there as well, along with our vendors. So there's really, I mean, everybody's working 24/7 come to rally. They want to get set up and selling as soon as they can too. So as far as educating them with trying to let them know beforehand, they're going to want to be parked right there. We don't write a ticket. We have not written any tickets or told anybody, but we've had to get pretty forceful with them and threatened to tow them because they refuse to move. And we've asked them not to, and the next day the same person's back there. So they want to get as close as they can because, and I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to haul all the stuff out of the truck and carry it 3 blocks away either. I can understand that. You know, I can understand the downtown businesses wanting to benefit from the rally and attract the citizens as well. And unfortunately, we have a snafu during the rally that's nothing really works good. There's just total chaos, and it's a free for all, and it is a nightmare trying to enforce. I will tell you, my guys and gals get very frustrated with it because it's not a pleasant job to tell people to move, and people get pretty ugly. So yeah.
From an enforcement standpoint, and maybe this is a question for Rick too, and a signing standpoint, if it were both sides versus one side, does that, I mean, either way, you're enforcing one way worse than the other, neither are good?
I'll let Rick jump in here, but one of my concerns also is once you start putting some barricades up, people that come from the rally for 20 years, they're going to go, okay, motorcycle parking only, and next thing you know, we're going to have people parking on right down the center of Main Street, because that's what they do. We've had that a couple years after the rally when we've had some stuff blocked off. When we had the zip line, we had them parking on Main Street in the center of Main Street as well after even the road was opened up, just because it's a habit of every year, you know. So the signing and barricades also could potentially have some unintended consequences. Half of it, probably a lot. It's half as many, so yeah, it's going to be easier.
I guess, you know, thinking about this a little bit, I mean, when we do a rally setup, we're controlling traffic and parking within the block from the entrance and exit of each block. And so what I mean is we put barricades leading into where the bump outs are on the ends of each of the block. In the middle of the block, we really don't have any signage. And so we're controlling access at those entry points What's being proposed now would mean that we're gonna have to put quite a bit of signage all along the lanes through that blocks, which isn't necessarily a problem. We can probably accomplish that. The bigger problem is that week leading into the rally, we're busy. And now I've got barricades there that each night, I'm actually extending my cleanup week by a full week now. So every night, I'm gonna have to bring guys the roadway so I can get the sweepers down there so we can wash the streets, because if the barricades are there, I can't do that. And normally, all we do during the rally is we have to do a little bit of shifting of them on the ends of the blocks, but there's not really anything in there. And that week leading up to the rally, we're hanging up banners, we're putting out garbage cans. I mean, we're putting up traffic signals. I don't really have the resources probably to add that into that week leading up to the rally, because we're getting ready for the rally. And we certainly want to keep our downtown clean. When the vendors come in and they start setting up, I mean, the zip ties and downtown gets littered. And so each morning we do have to do that cleanup when everybody else is in bed. We're down there getting it cleaned up for everybody. This just adds another layer of complication. And I know Jody's going to be hitting me up every morning. Hey, what can we do? We've got to get more signage down there. Again, it's easy to control it from the entrance points and control everything within, but to allow two-way traffic to remain and say we're only going to allow certain kind of parking on these sides of the streets, we haven't done that before. We're not necessarily set up. We may have to get more signage or more clearly identified signs ordered. So there again, there's a appropriation of funds. I know this morning Travis from our liquor store spoke up and talked about it, and he was concerned about doing that and pushing all of that traffic to the liquor store lot, to Lynn's lot, and that he felt that they would probably have to have an additional weeks of security to try and keep their lot opened up for the patrons. So there certainly are some concerns, I guess. We're open to trying something and maybe trying it on a smaller level and see how it works is easier. I think that it's problematic to have people down there, and if we can't clearly show them where they can and can't park, I mean, we're setting us all up for failure.
Rick, what would you recommend as a smaller scale, since you brought it up?
I think that if both sides of the street are in favor of it, the third to fourth block would be something that could be manageable. Or we could look at some of the side streets. I know that's not, again, and I guess I'm a little confused. All the people that I talk to that come early are coming early because they want to avoid the rally. They're coming so they can ride their motorcycles. They're trying to beat the crowds. So I guess I'm a little confused on the iconic downtown. Either we want it or we don't. And if that's the case, let's just block off. Like I said, if we did the third block, my suggestion would be that we just control it at the entry points, and it's motorcycle parking in that whole block, and you can park in the center like you do normally, and on the sides of the street. That would be way easier than trying to keep vehicular traffic moving and saying on the sides of the streets only these people can park, and I think it is going to be problematic for the vendors and everybody else trying to, even in that block is going to be problematic for the vendors. I don't know when I forget the company that's down on the end in One Eye Jacks, when are they moving out? It's usually that week before the rally. So we start to cause problems from these businesses that have to relocate. They're usually getting out the week before so that the vendors can move in. And trying to figure all that out is just, it's a little bit tough.
Well, at the end of the day, I don't want to, and I'm thinking of the local citizens, I don't want to cause them any more headache than they already have. As Mayor mentioned earlier, everybody's last minute, going to the grocery store, going to the bank, because they know during the week of the rally, it's going to be a pain. And so I don't want to I don't want to extend that out.
Eric? Oh, sorry, Robin, I'll let. No, go ahead, Robin can talk.
No, I just wanted to get a seat before everything. I just wanted to add a couple of things. My name is Robin Baldwin, and I own Black Hills Rally and Gold, so I'm involved in this. I also sit on the Downtown Committee. For those of you that are new, I don't know if you know that we have a bid tax, which is on the businesses in the downtown district, which I pay because I own a corner, and it's linear foot. Those people that own the empty buildings pay that as well, those people that come in for rally. So the point of the bid committee is to distribute those funds to enhance downtown. So we're responsible for all of the Christmas decorations, the overhead banners, all kinds of things that we think have improved the look of our downtown and enhanced it for businesses year-round. Our business is open year-round. The Sunday prior to when we are talking about that Monday, our store transitions into a store that locals don't even recognize, because that's what we need to have in there. That's what we sell when the rally people are here. Everybody in my block outside of the law office, the Strains office, are rally-related businesses. So I don't think any of them have any issue with this. I certainly see all the problems that it causes for the city. And I can understand why, something has to be figured out before you can do something like this. But I would like to put it before the council to maybe look at this going forward if you can't figure out a way to make it work this year. I think it would probably benefit our business. Locals don't want to be down there that week. They avoid it if they can. We do have people come in, and we sometimes have to go find things for them that have been put away. But for us, I think it would be fine, and for everybody in my block. But we don't have a bank. We don't have any businesses that people are trying to get to and park. So, and we know a lot of those people that come in, the vendors. They're there and open by Wednesday if they buy one license for 12 days. Most of them do longer than that, so they're there longer than that. Some of them don't have to buy licenses because they own the building. But the majority of people are there and ready to sell to motorcycle people. As far as the people coming in cars and visiting, there is still parking on the sides. I don't think we're trying to say you're not welcome here, that we don't want cars. I don't think that's the point at all. But I have been to other motorcycle rallies, and there's nothing like Sturgis, where you come and all you see for blocks and blocks and blocks are motorcycles. And there's something that is to be said for that. And I think as a city, we need to be really proud of the fact that we have this motorcycle rally. I can go anywhere and say I'm from Sturgis, and almost everybody knows where Sturgis is. I can say I'm from the Black Hills, where Mount Rushmore is, and some of them will go, oh, that's in South Dakota. I mean, Sturgis is a thing, and we need to be proud of it, and we need to promote it in every way that we can. And I don't know that this is something that we can make happen at this point, but I do think that in the future we need to think about it and consider it, because it's something we should be promoting. It's a big part of why Sturgis has how viable we are all year. We would not be this city without what happens during those couple of weeks and those tax dollars. So that's coming from a business owner, but also from a citizen of Sturgis. And I was born here. I mean, I'm a real deal citizen of Sturgis. So, and it is not easy to keep a business open year round. It takes a lot of really good employees to make that work. So I just want people to be aware that we need to keep the rally as something positive, because the more positive our city is about it, eventually the more positive your residents are. Point where people that are crabby all the time about having a rally. So that's just my input, and I wanted to give Mark a little bit of support. Because we did discuss this at our meeting, and this was something that we thought was something that could maybe work. I'm hearing the cons, and I think there's a lot of really legitimate ones. So we're good with however it goes, but I do think it's something that we should think about in the future.
Thank you, Robin. That was a very good addition there. I mean, it is important that we support the rally and we make sure that the rally is successful, because it manages a lot for us. And as you pointed out, there also is, people that would be just as happy that we didn't have it until we didn't have the income that came from it.
I guess I would just say to that, I hope I'm not interrupting. If you go to, I think, any town that has a major event, I think our biggest close example here would be Cheyenne, Wyoming, and Cheyenne Frontier Days. I'll bet if you asked some folks in that town, you certainly would run across some people that really didn't want Cheyenne Frontier Days showing up in their town. But can anybody imagine what Cheyenne Frontier Days has done for Cheyenne, Wyoming, and the state of Wyoming for that matter? And we're living the same thing here in South Dakota with Sturgis. So I know everybody up here is an elected official, and you're all representing your districts and so on, and conscious of that. But at the end of the day, the tax dollars coming in are what I think takes a lot of the burden off of you all up there too.
Hi, I'm Kitty Bearcat, and I'm the GM of One Eye Jacks, and this is actually my 22nd year working for One Eye Jacks, 18 of them in some level of management. When it comes to the vendors, Peter Gold still owns 1324. The business that he has in there, usually he has, they're out about mid-July. So, having them on that same time frame, I don't think is going to be the issue of, having them get out and the vendors coming in. I do know that, especially with last year around the last Saturday night of the rally, as everything was preparing for the motorcycle race, with our vendors that are on our property, which we have many, it was just coordinating with them to ensure if they wanted to be out, they needed to be out by a certain time, or they were going to be stuck until after the race was over. It's a similar situation that we can do, to benefit the downtown area in that sense, is we can put a time limit on our vendors as to, when is appropriate to come in and come out. And, a lot of our vendors are setting up much earlier. I know like the Burger Boys, they dropped their trailer about mid-July as well. So again, several of the big ones that, are going to need to lug stuff, it's just a matter of coordination. But having that bike parking, and even if it is just, the 3rd to 4th Street, it would make a big difference. I mean, we see it now just in this off-season where, you can't get people enough, there's not enough parking for the people that do want to be downtown without them having to park so far away. And, when you do have the people that are parking for hours and hours and hours on end, it does hurt us as a restaurant, now that, especially now that we're open Memorial Day through Labor Day, we're seeing that overall. But having that time frame, I mean, we completely support Mark in this venture. And, I speak on behalf of myself as well as the owner, Okana Bisalar.
Thank you, Kenny.
You're welcome.
Mark, I appreciate what you at the bid board are doing, trying to do what you can for downtown. But I think we're with less than 60 days till rally. We need to plan this, and I think there needs to be a little more communication with the bid board and with the city. I just think we're looking at the perfect storm. We already have the perfect storm, but I don't want to make it more perfect. So, like with that, I'm going to have to deny this because, like I said, I think we need to work at it a little more other than 60 days out. Maybe if we would have had this January 1st and we could have had a better game plan, I think I could have supported it a little bit better.
Procedurally, I was going to ask Eric, if there was going to be a move, we don't vote no on anything. So, if there's no desire, there's no motion made, there can be a motion, it can die for a failure of a second. I'm not pushing for that. What I'm saying is Eric, if there was going to be some decision made, and you haven't had a chance to research this, but what are we looking at here? Is this a resolution? Are we, how are we procedurally handling this?
I think procedurally the best way to do it, and I haven't thought of anything yet, is to consider the proposal. It would be absolutely fine. I think my preference would be if there was some sort of written resolution, as there are with other resolutions, to close the streets, but that doesn't mean that the council couldn't approve it tonight and direct staff to prepare that resolution and then pass it. Of course, a resolution doesn't have to be on paper with a number in order to be a resolution. Any action is a resolution, and I'm actually not that hung up on the idea of that there can't be a no motion on anything. I think the council could, if it was the council's desire to say we don't want to do this year, we'll consider it. I think there could be a motion to deny the request. We would probably have to, if the council wants to move forward with it, we would probably have to have a written resolution passed that the police department would have and the public would have notice on, that there was some sort of penalty for this or some sort of authorization from the council for the streets. But on this, if it's the council's desire not to move forward, I have no issues with a motion to deny it or to not approve it. However the council wants to proceed, and if there's something that goes sideways, I'll let you know.
Very good. Thank you, Eric. Any further discussion? Anybody from the public have any input? We haven't heard from the city administrator.
Well, I could speak for my wife, but I think you all know the answer there. But, the key thing for us, and I think just listening to Jody and to Rick speak, obviously there's some challenges for the staff. We are shorthanded at the moment from what we normally have going into the rally. However, we could probably make this work if we modify it. I think Rick had a good proposal if we were going to do a shorter piece of it and just, block off the ends versus trying to control the whole street, particularly if it was like 3 blocks long. I will speak for Cheryl a little bit, though. From a citizen perspective, and again, probably for Cheryl, she's listening. I know she just texted me. But the problem looks like that we're trying to solve here is that we want to improve the experience for our guests that come in to the rally, before the rally. And Cheryl would tell you that she's not interested in improving that experience. You know, if you'd asked her, she would say, I'd rather go back to 7 days versus the 10 days. So I'm not really sure from a public perspective, and again, as a resident living here most of my life, I'm not sure if we would have support. I know that technically we're not growing, we're extending the rally, as Mark pointed out. But I think optically, you know, if somebody was driving down in town, and even though they may not even try to go down Main Street, but the fact that it was closed off, and it was closed off because of the rally, I think that would be an issue. Now, I do think if we took time and build some consensus like Robin was talking about, and look at what problem we're trying to solve, and try to find a solution that allows us to solve that problem, to provide enhanced experience for those people that are here before the rally, but like it's growing a rally or it's creating any more inconvenience for the people in town. And that inconvenience can be real, and it can also be perceived. And sometimes perceived inconvenience is just like a real inconvenience. But I do think if we do take some time, we could probably come up with a solution that would provide a win-win for us to be able to accomplish the things that the downtown hotel bid would like to do, but yet also protect our residents in terms of, you know, this is an inconvenience for more than just the 10 days it was when we were growing up, when it started quick and ended quick, and it was fierce in between. Anymore, it tapers in, and it takes a long time to taper out. So that inconvenience has already grown quite a bit just over the last 20 years. But I would agree, rally is important to us. It can be increasingly important to us, you know, to implement some of the stuff that Kevin and the council talked about to maximize the rally, to be able to minimize the cost, but maximize what we can get for profit, you know, to have some tangible benefits from the rally that we can show to the community that this is worth the inconvenience. And we're working in that direction, and we will be successful. We have to be successful because the rally's not going anywhere, and we don't really want it to go anywhere. But when we're looking at the citizens, I think we need to try to find, you know, again, if the problem is just always about the guest, I'm not sure if that's a winning answer. I think at the end of the day, we need to find out what's a winning solution for the residents of Sturgis. But in this case, I do think we can find a middle way. Maybe not in 60 days, and to Mark's to credit, you know, and I listened to the council, I mean, he did come talk to us in January. So he's been socializing this for a long time. So this is not on Mark or the downtown bid or any of the business down there. They've been socializing this for a long time. It's not just the first year they've talked about this. It's been going for a while. So I do think there's an opportunity for us to sit back and answer those questions and see what we can find out, you know, for a win-win solution. Now, maybe that iconic picture may not be your typical iconic picture, but maybe we create a new iconic photo. And, you know, maybe it's at Harley Point, it's pointing to the north, and you got Sturgis in the background on the signage. There's an opportunity to always create some, you know, maybe unique, iconic photos. So I guess you asked, so.
Kevin, I'd like to ask, is our vendor, I mean, are we up this year? What's the proposed for people coming in? And do we have any idea what this year's gonna look like yet, being the 85th?
I think everyone is pretty optimistic. I mean, I bet you there's some people in the audience that could better answer that question than myself, but I've certainly been trying to keep my ear open for whatever I hear about it, and it sounds like, you know, our rally is going to be good this year, and we're looking forward to that.
Are our vendor sales going up, or are they gonna stay about the same, do you think?
I don't think we know that usually until we go. I mean, I think they were up last year over what we had anticipated.
Yeah, we don't have any key metrics right now, and that's probably something we can have in the future to be able to track where we sit this time of the year versus last year, maybe the last 3 or 4 years. But we do have a lot of demand. We are getting a lot of requests, you know, for vendors across down at the Armory. That's for Tessa. We do have a lot of requests for down at the Armory and hoping to improve that experience, but kind of hard to tell. I mean, if you look at our sales staff for the Triple B and looking at the hospitality, it's down a little bit, primarily in March, but it seems it was decent in January, February, and it seemed like that recovered in April. So, you know, I know there's some downturn in that type of tourism across the nation, but not necessarily maybe seen right here in Sturgis at the moment.
My concern is the more trucks and stuff that come in, are we gonna find parking spots for them on side streets?
Well, those are some of the unintended consequences that Rick and, like he was referencing, Travis Parker was talking today, that if you do close, a significant part of Main Street, it pushes traffic other places. And when you push traffic to other places, there's some unintended consequences of that. They may have impact on those businesses or, again, it's just some unknown. So, finding that middle way in the future, maybe it is something where we start small so we can understand what those impacts are so we can put things in to mitigate that, to be able, again, to make this a win-win, not just for the people downtown, but all the residents and all the other businesses that are around Main Street that might be impacted by a significant, push to be able to close streets off early.
Thanks. Okay. Since we spent make a decision one way or another.
Could I just add one thing? I've been thinking about this whole time. I think I don't even know if it's a reality, but a Band-Aid, wouldn't we just let them choose what they want to do in front of their property this year? Like if the Loud and One-Eyed want to block off their area for whatever, they police it, they make the signs. We don't block anything off.
That seems like an interesting idea, Nick. I'm not sure how that would
I don't
fit
know how-
into our legal piece. I mean, we'd be having, non-authorized people policing public property. I mean, I like the idea that everybody's thinking, about different ways that we can possibly make this work. With that, though, I mean, unless we intend to be here past 10 o'clock tonight,
That's all I got.
we kind of are going in circles a little bit. I mean, we could have ideas. From my point of view, it looks like, I mean, obviously, Tony has stated, I mean, and Eric concurred that there is a path that is no. There is a path for yes. I would hope that if council comes with a motion and says yes, it includes some directives on where the funding's coming from to handle that, if we're paying for it for contingency or some other way. I guess a third option would be, it could be tabled for more research, and I'm not sure that any of those options meet everyone that's having the conversation tonight's desires, but a no would mean we can't revisit it for a year, correct?
I would make the motion to table this to next meeting, and in the meantime, work out a plan that meets the criteria of what would make Jody happy and would make Rick happy. Come up with a plan and bring it to the next meeting as a resolution, and we can vote on it.
And also make Cheryl happy.
All right, so we've got a motion to table this item until June 16th.
I'll second that.
There's a second by Mark. That first was by Ruth. Almost,
Forget my name.
well,
Not abstaining this time.
we've had a first and a second on that. Is there any further discussion? Those in favor of the motion to table until June 16th indicate by stating yes.
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 Those opposed, no. Jim must have dropped off the phone. So that item has been tabled until June 16th. I'd like to see that go through the Rally and Events Committee myself, so. Moving on. Next, we've got a rally licensing agreement, 11.4, consideration to approve the 2025 Direct Premier Products LLC Retail Licensing Agreement. Agreement is on the agenda in full. Lance, what do you?
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor and Council. As you just stated, Mayor, the agreement is a one-year 2025 retail licensing agreement with Direct Premier Products. They are a new licensee to the city, and they would be utilizing a portion of the official brand mark collection.
And just for the sake of sharing, that's been through legal and we're all good with the contract there.
That's correct.
Any questions or comments from council on this licensing agreement? Well, is there a motion? Hearing no discussion.
I'd move to approve.
Got a first by Nick, a second by Terry to approve this one-year licensing agreement with Direct Premier Products LLC. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion is carried.
Thank you.
11.5 is also a licensing agreement that with Patch Stop Deadwood LLC, DBA Sturgis Photo and Gifts Retail Licensing Agreement. Lance, this is more for some of our heritage items.
That's correct, Mayor. As you mentioned, Sturgis Photo and Gifts has been a long-time retail licensee of the cities. Traditionally, recently, with the brand mark collection, they've also asked to utilize a portion of the Heritage Mark collection, and this again is a one-year term agreement.
And there's some pieces of that we want to make sure that we use so that we solidify the trademarking of that, correct?
With all our IP, that's correct.
Correct. Any questions from council? Is there a motion?
A motion.
I'll second.
First by Alex, a second by Ruth to approve the 2025 Patch Stop Deadwood Sturgis Photo and Gifts Retail Licensing Agreement. All those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. 11.5 has passed.
Thank you.
11.6, consideration to approve 2025-2026 S&S Promotion Group Incorporated DBA Commemorative Firearms Retail Licensing Agreement. Lance, I think it'd be good for you to maybe explain this one in a little more detail, what all this entails.
Certainly, and first I'd like to point out that this particular license application did go through the council last year about this time. It was decided that we weren't prepared to proceed with it at that time, but it has come up again. This would be a new licensee to the city for the official brand mark collection. A one-year agreement which would actually run through 2027. It is the production of replica model firearms commemorating the 85th anniversary. So the booking of that sale by the retailer and the fulfillment of those bookings will likely take about a year and a half.
So to break that down, you mean it'll take them a year and a half to sell the number of firearms that they generate?
And produce them and actually engrave them and deliver them to the customers who buy them starting immediately.
And we get our portion of the agreement when they sell those?
We will. We do have a minimum on this that will provide us a substantial amount this fall and then at the end of the year.
Just for the sake of discussion, what happens if they don't sell them all by the end of the agreement? Do we still collect royalties? Do we lump sum them at that point?
We do continue to collect royalties on any item sold.
That basically, these are firearms that we're going to brand with the Sturgis Winged S logo.
That's correct.
Any questions from council?
Eric, is there any concerns from legal on this?
Regarding which aspects?
Just, I guess, as a whole, the
contract itself or the agreement itself?
Not
With
that
the- I guess more so with the, as Mayor just asked, the agreement's only through 2027, but we will, if they didn't sell something till 2028, we still collect that?
I got to tell you, I did not review that portion of the agreement. I can't speak to it on the enforceability of the royalty collections. I was not involved in the negotiating or drafting of this agreement, but I've reviewed all the sponsorship agreements and the licensing agreements for basic terms, and so there was nothing that was immediately flagged to me. I'd be happy to take a closer look if the council would like to. I wasn't sure what, if any, issues there would be with something like this. I did not look at the issue of the delayed production and the commissions coming back to the city. Be happy to do that.
The structure of this contract is pretty consistent with all the other ones we have. I think the issue here is we're talking about, we're not branding our brands on a glassware. It's on, a historical weapon. And I think that was part of the issue last year. Again, this is, what kind of weapon is it? It's like a 1870 some model, or?
It's a lever action model 92 rifle replica, and also a new Army 1858 model handgun.
Yeah, so
revolver.
that's what's unique about this license than all the others. It's the what we're putting our mark on.
And that would be a policy consideration for the council and not a legal consideration on that aspect of it.
Would it be a policy consideration discussing the royalty portion of, when it's engraved, the royalties due, rather than when it's sold?
That's related to the language of the contract. That would be a legal issue that I'd be happy to look at and report back to the council on the next meeting if that's its desire.
And if I might, I believe that's the, really the crux of the extended term of the agreement, is that they don't engrave anything that hasn't been sold, beyond a reasonable number of examples to have out to display.
Okay, understood. It's hand engraved, potentially?
That's correct.
Or engraved to order.
Any further discussion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
We got a first for approval from Alex, a second from Terry. Any further discussion? Call for the vote. Those in favor of the motion to allow the production of S&S firearms, commemorative firearm retail licensing agreement, indicate by stating yes.
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 Those opposed, no. That motion is carried.
Thank you.
Item 11.7, consideration to approve signature cards with First Interstate Bank. We've got some new team members, so we need some new bank authorization.
As you call it, housekeeping. We've got, with new officers, for the council, we need to get those names on the card, the old ones off. And then with my new employee, we need to get him on.
Okay. Everyone signed already and we're ready to take care of it.
Not yet. We're almost there.
Gotcha.
We're close.
All right.
You're missing mine. I forgot it in my car at home, so it's my fault.
I'm glad that you took ownership of that.
I
We didn't have to
own my
call you out.
mistakes.
So are you the guy then looking to make the motion on this?
I'll move. I'll second.
All right, thank you, Mark, for a first, and Nick for a second to approve the signature cards with First Interstate Bank. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. All right, we've carried through. That brings us to the last regular item of the agenda, item 11.8, consideration of the 2024 annual report.
I'm going to start out by giving you just an overview of our funds. We have governmental funds, which include the general fund, capital improvement, and the TIF fund. And then the other governmental funds include the special sales tax, the downtown bid, the hotel occupancy tax, revolving loan fund, equipment replacement, and perpetual maintenance. And then our enterprise funds include liquor, water, wastewater, sanitation, and ambulance. Okay, if we start with Exhibit 4, if you're following along. Can you hear me? Okay. If you look at that, the first thing you're going to notice is that the two largest revenue sources for the general fund are property taxes and sales tax. General fund generated $10,293,416 in revenue, representing the primary source of the operating funds. And then all across the governmental funds is $15,876,167. If we move to the expenditures, you will see that general fund, as Kevin had mentioned earlier, was $9,830,404, with their expenditures of $13,838,000. Jeez, $838,002. Then with the net change of the fund balances, we show that the general fund, capital improvement fund, and other governmental funds each recorded increases in fund balances, reflecting the pretty conservative budgeting, and then of course our cutting back. In contrast, the TIF fund experienced a decline. That I'm not understanding some of that, and I think the auditor, I'm going to have him look through those TIFs and make sure that everything is going in the right buckets, because the numbers don't look right to me. So with that said, the total government funds increased $2,129,433. Okay, I'm sorry, I lost my spot. Okay, the enterprise funds, we'll do the same thing there as far as the revenues and expenditures. If you notice on the liquor fund, the first thing you're going to notice is that it looks like we're $1 million short, and we are not. We had discovered that $1 million when we went through the budget, when we were looking at the actual, if anyone remembers that, at the end of the year. And I think it's a revenue thing, or not, I think it's a software problem, and it shows in the expenses is where it's showing. And it looks like it's being doubled, and I think it's something to do with the receivers and how we're paying the bills. So we just need to figure out. I've had people look at it. I've had Cassell look at it, and Travis has looked at it, but it just doesn't make sense. Because we don't have as much money in the bank as what we should have when we look at it. If you look, I'm not going to have that either. Aaron, do you remember what that was?
We're talking about the liquor?
The liquor, because when you look at the inventory.
Yeah, if you look at us historically, right now, since we're showing $1 million expended than we normally would expend, because it shows that we brought in, 3.9 million, and we expended 4.8, which is way out of our normal. If you look back the last 4 years, we've always consistently brought in about $400,000 or $500,000 on the plus side from the liquor store. And we just completed doing inventories, and so we know what our inventory level is right now. So to have that expenditure, we would have to do a couple things. A, we would have had to have $1 million of inventory sitting in our store, which we don't. Or we would have been selling it at a loss, right? We bought it at wholesale at this price, but we sold it less than that. So again, looking at what Ann and her team has done, and just looking at there seeming some anomalies there, it looks like this is more of a software accounting issue. It looks like it's being double counted somewhere. Because if you look historically where that has been, it is way off the charts expenditure, but it's really close on its revenues. And it's been very consistent over the last 4 years in terms of what its revenues and expenditures are. Again, after we finished up the reconciliation, we saw this $1 million expenditure, and again, we can't explain it based on any, other than having inventory, spending at a loss, which we didn't. So our assumption is, based on what Ann has looked at and her team, is that, again, we just got to go through and try to find out within Cassell, our accounting software, to determine where that double count was happening. For a little while, but with finishing up the reconcile for 2024 and getting an annual report, we know it, we've been looking at it, but I think now we can start probably put some more dedicated time and try to solve that problem.
So there is due outs yet tied to this annual report.
There is.
And we'll more than likely, when our auditor comes in, there will be a finding on this, or probably a note that we see on this, but I mean, those are corrective actions, not.
Right.
Not, I'm drawing a blank for what the word that I'm looking for, but it's not a fine type action. We are deep enough into it that we know that $1 million worth of liquor didn't go out the back door or in somebody's pocket.
Yep.
And that our inventory matches our purchases and our sales. So somewhere along between two dissimilar software systems, we've got a disconnect.
Travis has done all that, and I don't know that he's talked to his guy, but I'm going to call Tom and have him explain to me how those receivers, how that all works with Cassell, because it doesn't make sense. You've got 23, it's done one way. It comes like, it's all downloaded from from the liquor store to finance. But then halfway, and they're not showing, and this is in payables, it's not showing the bills. All it's showing is the download.
Yeah.
Well, then you hit 24 and you see half and half. So something has happened, something's different.
Additionally, we still have some work that we'll be doing on our surcharge funds and our different subsets of our accounting that will follow yet, and then obviously we're into 2025 level reporting.
Right.
Does anybody have any questions or concerns with this annual report? Our action tonight is to acknowledge receipt of it. Not necessarily to approve it, but to acknowledge receipt.
Correct.
Just all nod.
Well, in the past, it has been enough. I mean, just presenting to the council. Let me defer to our legal. Would you recommend that we see a motion on receipt of this report, or is the fact that it was an agenda item and we reviewed it?
I guess I don't have any idea off the top of my head. Is there some sort of statutory requirement that the report has to be received by a certain date?
Right, the first meeting in May truly was the date, and so that's why the impending push for sure.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely fine to have
a motion to acknowledge receipt of the report, and if there's going to be amendments and future changes to the report, that's totally fine.
We want to make sure we accept it, not approve it.
Right.
I'll move to accept, that we've accepted the report. Is that how we want to word that?
I think so, yeah, accept the 2024 annual report. If I've got a first from Mark, somebody second?
I'll second.
A second from Nick. Is there any discussion on the motion? Those in favor indicate by stating yes.
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 Those opposed, no.
You know, I wouldn't mind just making a comment on this whole process. You know, when Ann came in, the same day I came in, when you were appointed on the 9th of January, you know, we were, 24 had not been reconciled at all. And we were still working on reconciling some stuff for 2023. So we were in a pretty significant hole. And at the same time we're in that hole, we also got current operations going on. We've had some turnover in the finance department. And so, you know, I give a lot of credit to Ann, you know, maintaining a positive attitude. She's worked a lot of hours, weekend hours. She hasn't probably had the best balance of life over the last several months, but she's been very dedicated on digging through, you know, all these things that had to be accomplished to be able to get it reconciled, provide the information to the CASEL so they could help us out with that, and then continue to work on that annual report. I mean, I've watched this close through the whole process, and, you know, again, very, very appreciative and very impressed with how important this was to her and Robin and the whole finance team on really what they're working. Now, we were a little, as we went through and did that report, didn't always get the numbers that we thought we were going to get. And so we're still working through some growing pains on that piece of it. And again, we feel pretty, you know, feel really good about the audit coming in. And, you know, one thing that I'm really looking forward on that audit, and as the mayor talked about, kind of emphasis on the TIF side of it, but you know, this is an opportunity for us to grow. And one thing I've witnessed with Ann and her team is that they're always growing, they're always learning from experiences, good and bad. And sometimes you can only get really, really good when sometimes those experiences are bad. But those that bad experience wasn't something that was set up by Ann and her team. I mean, they are digging out of it, and I'm not going to blame any one individual. We just had a lot of turnover the last 18 months. We've been through 3 finance officers. We've had turnover at some key position that had continuity of information and knowledge on this whole process. And so she's been reconstructing this, making a lot of phone calls to people and to be able to make this work. So, Ann, I just want to, you know, thank you for everything that you've been doing. Again, you've been keeping a smile on your face through the whole experience, and we're lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you. I'm trying.
Certainly no easy task, and we're grateful for your efforts.
It's been a learning curve.
Well, it's not over, unfortunately.
No, it's not. It's just the beginning of the learning. Bring on the audit.
All right, moving on. The last item on our agenda is executive session. Eric, do we have a need for executive session?
There is a need for a very brief executive session this evening to consult with legal counsel about pending litigation. It's one matter pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2 sub 3, so I'd ask for a motion to go into executive session for that reason.
Thank you, Eric. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Second.
First by Mark, second by Alex to adjourn to executive.
Before we adjourn, is there action after?
No action after, right?
No.
No agenda items, so no action. Any further discussion? Those in favor indicate by stating yes.
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 Those opposed, no. this weekend. Let me know when we're,
Oh, nobody stuck around.
Bonnie texted you? Yes, she texted me too. Well, don't say that out loud. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Bonnie texted me last meeting. Yeah, Bonnie texted me last meeting too.
All right, I'm looking for a motion to come out of executive session.
Motion.
Second.
First by Alex, second by Nick to come out of executive session. All those in favor indicate by stating yes.
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 Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion.
Geez, there's too many. I didn't hear who all.
Over there.
Let's get Alex, who is second. Nick?
Guess
Who's
it's me.
Ruth? Okay. First by Alex, second by Ruth. Those in favor of adjournment indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
We're adjourned. Thank you.